Linear and nonlinear functions, lesson 14 notes. Example number 1. Determine if the equations below represent a linear function. For each linear function, identify the slope and y-intercept. So first we're going to come up to see, or we're going to figure out if it's a linear function or not a linear function. And then if it is a linear function, we're going to identify the slope and the y-intercept. The reason why we can't identify the slope if it's nonlinear is because the slope is not continuous throughout the entire graph. If you think of a line that curves up and down, kind of like a wave, well, when the line's going upward, it's a positive slope, but when it's going downward, it's a negative slope. Sometimes the slope is steeper and sometimes it's not as steep. So if it's not a linear function, the slope is not consistent, therefore we can't state the slope. But if it is a linear function, the slope is the same the entire way through the problem, and we can state it. Okay, in order to complete this, we must solve for y first. We must solve for y first. So for problem A, let's box our y term, because that's ultimately what we want to isolate. I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. Bring down the 3y equals, these are not like terms, so I just bring them down. I bring down my variable term, then I bring down the constant term. Now to isolate the variable, I'm going to divide both sides by 3. So everything gets divided by 3. That leaves me with y equals negative 2/3 x minus 5. So is this equation of the form y equals mx plus b? Is it a linear equation? Yes, it is. So this is a linear function. This is a linear function with the slope in front of x. So the slope is negative 2/3. And the y-intercept is behind x, so the y-intercept is negative 5. So again, y equals negative 2/3 x minus 5 is a linear equation with the slope of negative 2/3 and the y-intercept of negative 5. Pause your video, make sure you have everything written down. All right, for B, I want to isolate the y. So the first thing I need to do is take the negative 2x cubed to the other side using the inverse operation. So I'm going to add 2x cubed to both sides. So I have y equals, again, these are not like terms. So I bring down the 2x cubed and plus 4. So is this of the form y equals mx plus b? A lot of times students get confused and say yes, but the problem is that that x has the exponent of 3, therefore making it not a linear function. So this is not a linear function. Go ahead and circle that negative 3. I'm going to draw an arrow up to it. And then I'm going to put because of the exponent. So because of the exponent, it is not a linear function. Because of the exponent, it is not a linear function. Pause your video, make sure you have everything written down. Okay. For C, I want to isolate the y. How do I get y by itself? I need to take the constant 5 to the other side of the equation. Since it's negative 5, I'm going to add 5 to both sides. So this would be y equals 5. Is that a linear function? Well, what kind of line is y equals 5? What kind of line do you have with y equals 5? That is we talked about this up in the examples, that would be a horizontal line. And horizontal lines are functions. They are linear and they pass the vertical line test, so they are a linear function. What is the slope and what is the y-intercept? Well, remember we talked about this already. Horizontal lines have a slope of 0, and the y-intercept is the number where it crosses the y-axis, which is 5. And that is it for example 1. So if it has an exponent, it's not going to be linear. If it can be of the form y equals mx plus b, and it cannot have any exponents on it, or any roots, or anything like that, then it will be linear. If you have any questions about example number 1, please let me know.